Are you live? Nathan, do you want to intro it?
That's actually fine. So when the fear sets in, nobody can see my eyes.
So I might need to get some video for that. Did I do that?
Okay, guys,
you just email us.
thank you for coming out. My name's Nathan, just in case any of y'all know and don't know. And this is my friend. Now, this is Stuart Smith. And the thing I like about Stuart is that he makes me knives that look like swords. I call them hobbit swords.
Yeah.
He makes big knives. And so we actually met Stuart a few years ago when we first started our business. We went to Africa and we went to Durban.
Yes.
And Durban Easter Knife Show. And Stuart was there and he had some knives and me and Nolan saw his knives and we were like, not only do we like this guy's knives, but we like this guy. And he was super nice and very welcoming to us. And so whenever we started our business, he was one of the knife makers that we said we want to do business with him. And we're thankful and blessed by him to be here because he stayed after Blade Show to come and do a demonstration, forging demonstration, just for us and just for our customers. And so, Stuart, we're thankful. Appreciate you. I'm going to let you kind of take over from here.
Thank you very much. Okay, so obviously you know me. I'm Stuart Smith. I am now recently Stuart Smith, Journeyman Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't introduce you as Journeyman Smith.
Yeah. No, Journeyman
Which is a huge honor for anyone who's forges their own stuff. It's for the recognized by the American Blades.
Just so you know, JS is a big deal. It's your bachelor's degree, your doctorate, but in knife making. So I can officially say Stuart Smith JS every time I sign my name if I want to. Yeah, so it's a big deal for me. It's good business. I'm from South Africa. I am a member of the South African Knife Makers Guild, one of the oldest knife making institutions in the world, next to the ABS and the American Blades Fittings, so the American Knife Makers Guild. I'm also chairman of the Southern African Bladesmith Association. So I got a lot of impressive titles, but what I really am is a knife maker and a bladesmith. And one of the things I love making most of all is the Bowie knife, or what you guys call a Bowie knife. Okay. So today I've got a piece of 1084 high carbon steel that I'm going to forge the tang out. I'm going to forge a tip out, and I'm going to forge a bevel in. I'm not going to talk while I forge. It's hot. I'm going to get tired. I'm going to get sweat extra. So between forging, I will talk and answer any questions that you might have. At the end of this knife is going up for raffle.
We'll pass tickets out in just a bit.
Yeah, with one of two options. One, you can take the knife as it is now, take it home, finish it on the house. Or you give it back to me, I take it back to South Africa. I assemble an African style handle for you with a combination of warthog and hippo bone and tooth and buffalo horn. It's a beautiful stacked handle, looks glorious, with some nice, a good solid guard, a good solid bolster on this Bowie knife. And then you have that option to buy it from me at the end for about $500, which is a steal. But for African custom knives, we're doing this special deal. So that's going to be the going prize for this piece of steel that I'm working on. Familiar with the term strike while the iron is hot? This is literally where it comes from. I don't want to waste my energy forging a cold piece of steel. Forging a cold piece of steel creates stress fractures, and it embrittles the grain of the steel. It basically makes a weaker knife. It means you have to work extra hard to re-strengthen the knife through normalizing procedures. Normalizing is simple heating and cooling of the steel. Basically re-homogenizes the grain of the steel after embrittlement from forging. What I'm doing now is I'm starting to forge the tang. However, this piece of steel is very broad. It's 50 millimeters, about 2 inches. What I'm doing is I'm going to pinch down the one side of it, creating a bit of a natural heel, and then from that little pinch section I'm going to forge the tang out. The tang is the part of the knife that goes into the handle, whether it be a full tang, which is a big flat piece of steel that you'll glue handle scales to, or a narrow tang, which is something I'm going to draw out with this one. It's a long, thinner piece, it's not thin, and that goes into a piece of wood, which is then fastened with either a nut or a pin to hold the piece of wood onto the handle. Now, people always ask me, which is stronger, a narrow tang or a full tang? And every time I'll tell you a narrow tang, because if you look at any full tang knife, the first thing you do is you drill 2 holes in it to put pins in. And every knife that I've seen that breaks is a full tang knife, and it breaks on those pinholes. There are ways around it, but if you look at a correctly made narrow tang knife, if you look at the length of the shoulders, and you add up that area, and you add up the area of the 2 holes that you drilled in for your full tang, it's about the same, except the narrow tang is now stronger because there are no holes in it. That's just me though. Other makers may have differing opinions. So I've created my little heel. Now I'm going to take this section here and I'm going to draw it out into a tang. Any questions? It's because I don't shut up. I tell you everything. Nobody's going to ask me.
Stuart, is that forged?
Damn hot. You're probably looking at about 1,000 degrees Celsius. Yeah. Sorry, I only work in Celsius and metric. But yeah, about 1,000 degrees Celsius, just hot enough to forge, not hot enough to wreck the grain of the steel. If I go any hotter than this, if I start to go that bright orange, yellow color, that starts approaching welding temperature, where the internal structure of the steel becomes agitated enough to continue hitting and creates grain growth. And then we have to do the normalizing cycles again more thoroughly afterwards. Whereas if you just keep the temperature relatively, let's say low, but lower, you'll get better results from your steel. And what I'm working with is 1084. It's like, in America, it's like a common steel. Everybody uses it. We can't get this stuff in South Africa. It's like hen's teeth. Oh, it's going to burn my beard off. Okay, so I'm start forging the tang out now. Now, without any specific tools to mark off my... Actually, do you mind with the blacksmith? There. Do you mind if I use the end of your tongs as a colouring tool? Thanks. Who's going to be my second? The guy with the beer. You're both holding beers. You can't give me a hand.
He wants you to give him a hand.
Oh, you want me to hold it?
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. That's probably the best one. I love that one. Yeah. Yeah, so just hold it. Just do it like that. Yeah. Couple of whacks. Yeah. Just then get nice.
Side you want me to be on?
Yeah, that side. Put it like that. I'm going to hold it like that. And I nod my head, you hit it. Old blacksmith joke. So I've notched it. We're going to do it one more time. It's a little off center because these tongs are slightly sideways, but that's fine. I can modify it. There are 14 Like you see, it's mild steel. How easily it bends. But that, fortunately, because it's mild steel, I can just hammer it straight again.
Stuart, how does this steel compare to what you normally use?
What compared to this?
Well, what you said.
This steel, yeah.
You can't normally get it in South Africa.
We sort of can now, but we have to specifically import it. It's not available from manufacturers in South Africa. Generally, what we would do in South Africa, only recently, as the last 2 years, have knife suppliers started to bring in steels from other countries. And we had to make do with our own steels, like forging out ball bearings, forging out 5160 leaf springs, finding coil springs, identifying the steel as 1095 or whatever, and then we know that that particular one is good for knives, you know. But nowadays, we're fortunate to have, because the international economy is now a global economy, we can now order and ship stuff from overseas, and this is now becoming more and more available. But still, not ideally, not every knife supplier in South Africa stocks this. So you still have to go out of your way to get it. Okay, so now I've notched it. Now everything that's that is going to become the tang. You might think, hey, that's kind of short. It's actually not. There's a lot of steel in there, and you'll see why in a minute. The reason I'm doing the tang first is because I need something to hold on to more easily in order to forge the blade out, so I can use the smaller tongs. If I had a full bar of steel, I'd be using the full bar as the handle, and I'd forge the blade out first. So we're kind of doing an ass about face right now.
So we have a couple of young guys that want to start forging. How long have you been making knives, and how long did it take you to start getting to where you were feeling good about it?
I'll let you know when that happens. Now the thing about making knives is, in the beginning, it's great as a hobby. It's a great way to learn a new skill, stress relief. But then when you start doing it to earn money, it becomes work. You've got to try and keep that joy. But to learn, it depends on your dedication. If you go for one lesson a week, or you go to somebody's workshop once a week, your learning is going to be pretty slow. But if you're forced to do it every day, like I was when I first started, the learning curve is pretty steep, and you can learn quickly. Also, some people are naturally gifted knife makers. I'm not one of them. It's taken me 20 years to get this good. I know guys that took 2 years to get as far as I am right now.
How did you get started?
It was a gift from my father, a lesson with ABS mastersmith Kevin Harvey. He's him and his wife, Kevin and Heather Harvey, are the only two mastersmiths in South Africa. I went for a lesson with them once every Thursday evening because I had a job then. And it was just like, oh, okay, that's fun. I didn't collect knives, I wasn't a knife guy. But when my job was no longer satisfying and I was unhappy, my wife said, well, what do you want to do? I said, okay, I think I'll make knives. It's the only thing I know how to do. Not very well, but I started with no customers, no orders, and promptly went into debt for about 10 years. But it was worth it because I am where I am now. I'm doing what I'm doing, and I love it. And it just went from, hey, that's something interesting to do, to this is my life now. So I'm very thrilled with what I'm doing, and I can't believe where I am right now. It's something I could never have imagined. All right, so let's make some sweat. Let's impress everybody with my hammer skills. Things you learn when you're forging, simple things like how to hold the hammer correctly. You see a lot of new bladesmiths, they suffer from something I call floppy hammer. It's when their arm is tired and they can't lift the hammerhead, and they start doing this. And when you start doing that, it's time to stop, take a breather. The way I always teach my students is that if you can't hold the heavy one, hold the light one. Because if you can lift it, you can only hit hard with a hammer if you can lift the head up. Okay? So I always say, imagine there's somebody standing above you with a big piece of string that's tied around the hammerhead. So every time you hammer, you lift the hammerhead up and then you push it. And then you strike. Because lifting the hammer like this and then like that, you're using twice the amount of muscles to lift it. So while doing it like this may seem tiring at first, you'll find you can do it for longer. So you'll see when I hammer like a piston. And I take those big swings and I hit as hard as I can. Because I know I can maximize the force. And I push the hammer up, because I use the big hammer. I push it up with my arm. I'm not using my shoulders. I'm not using my arm to lift it like I'm curling. See, a lot of knife makers will do this. Or bladesmiths or blacksmiths, I don't know. But a lot of them will use their bicep to lift the hammer. See, when I swing with my arm like this. That's for the big strokes. When it starts to we start to refine the steel and refine the blade, you'll see my strokes get smaller, and I slowly work my way towards the end of my arm. So the last time I'm just using my wrist. So depending on where I'm working is how far the stroke goes down my arm. But I digress, I get distracted. We're making a knife. Now on a good day, you'll see as the tang gets thinner, I can actually keep the tip hot. Every time I hit it, the tip glows orange a little bit. That's very cool, but that's only when you've got extra energy. Right now, it feels like any time I forge. I'm just hot and sweating. When I stop that, I feel it.
Does rot climate or humid, does that affect the metal?
No, that won't do anything to the metal. That temperature and the density of steel, humidity and climate don't affect it in the slightest. I could be forging this in Antarctica, although that might affect it. That's cold. A friend in Canada left a knife on his workbench overnight, came back the next morning and crap, because it froze.
Oh, wow.
The steel froze. But I mean, minus 20 degrees Celsius frozen. Interesting factoid, minus 20 Celsius, sorry, minus 40 Celsius and minus 40 Fahrenheit are exactly the same. So there you go. Now you know. Don't worry, the rest of the knife is more interesting, I promise. Okay, so you see this hammer's got two faces. Most hammers are like this. One is a flat face, one is a rounded face. Now, when I started drawing out the tang, I used the flat face because I need the corners to catch the square where the shoulders run into the tang. And then when I want to start drawing it out, I use the round face because the round face has a smaller surface area. I can hit harder and I can move material faster with the round face.
Stuart, is it common for a beginner, like, I mean, your strokes are right on.
Yeah.
Beginner just miss completely?
Aim. That's all you got to do is aim. Yeah. No, look, I mean, anything with practice becomes easier. And when you first pick up the hammer for the first time, if you've got it, great. I find anybody who's done any kind of shop work or building, you know, if you've worked with hammers and tools, you pick it up and suddenly it kind of makes sense. You understand the principle between you know, swinging a hammer and hitting the spot where you're aiming. Like if you ever had them in nails, this is like that.
But a beginner will probably take all day to do what you've done.
They'll take them longer, yes, because you need to know how the steel moves, and the steel doesn't cooperate. The steel wants to do what it wants to do. It's in a semi-liquid state now. It's like kind of like hard putty. And now you're taking that hard putty and you're hitting it with a hammer, and you want it to become the shape you want it to become. And it can be intimidating. The steel sometimes becomes the boss of you in the beginning. When you see I forge out the bevels, the knife's going to bend like a banana, it's going to look all sorts of ugly. But I work through a simple set of procedures that I follow regardless of what the blade looks like. First thing I do is I forge out the heel, which is the part of the knife where the edge begins, sometimes called the choil. Okay? So where the heel starts, that first part of the blade, where your cutting edge starts, I forge that little bevel in. It's like pinching a piece of putty. You know, I pinch that in with the hammer, between the hammer and the anvil. And then I draw all that out, and then the knife starts to bend backwards because the edge is getting longer, but the back's not going anywhere. So it bends like a banana. You think that's not a knife. That's not what it's supposed to look like. And people try and fix it immediately, but I don't. I carry on forging my bevel until the edge is all even, and the blade's bent like this. And then I'll take it, and I'll put it in the fire, and I'll just straighten it out with a few taps of the hammer, and we move forwards because you're the boss of the steel. It must do what you want it to do, not the other way around. And a lot of people struggle with that. Steel does what it wants to do. They struggle to control it. So I'll see if I can do it. You watch the tip of that piece of steel. See, it's staying hot. But only for so long, because that hammer's heavy. Okay, one or two more heats and then my tang will be done. I can start forging out the tip of the knife. So we take that big piece of square at the end and we forge it into a tip. Once we've got that tip, it's nice and even, we can start forging our bevels on.
Water?
Yeah, I think so. I'll go get it.
I got it.
Stuart, did you see some good Bowie knives today?
Oh yeah, real classics. I loved it. Okay, now the tang is thinner, so it's heating up faster now. Now you see, because my strokes are smaller, I'm doing it from my elbow. I'm no longer taking the big swings. Now, if you watch the movies, you'll see the blacksmith will forge his sword, clang, 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 and then very dramatically he'll shove it into a bucket of water. Don't do that. That's bad. You will warp and break your blade. They do it for dramatic effect. Undoubtedly that piece of steel is mild steel. It's useless for anything. And also, for some reason in movies, when you see a guy forging a sword, it's fully ground and finished when he puts it in the fire. That's not what swords look like. Swords look like black hunks of rubbish until you finally refine those edges down. And if you take the time to forge bevels in and put lines in the blade, it takes a lot of time. But generally, we shape them mostly so they're sword shaped. And because we don't have time to sit there unless you're gainfully employed elsewhere, we will stock remove the rest of that sword, grind out all the unevenness, we'll grind the straightness in. So a modern sword maker will make a sword.
If you were in your shop making this knife like you described earlier, what would be the length of the whole process?
Well, my forge is pretty much the same as this, except mine's upright and it's got holes on both sides. It's great for forging swords because you can only forge a sword one section at a time. So I'll heat the one section that I'm working on, clink, 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 and I'll heat the next one, and the next one, next one. Slowly, from this tiny little forge, a giant sword can be born. Heat treating it, that's another issue, because the whole sword has to be heated evenly. So we have to go to another knife maker who's got a long furnace, generally one that's vertical, because if you put a sword in this way, when it gets hot you pull it out, it's just going to bend. So you've got to do a vertical furnace and a vertical quench to harden it. Okay, so we're nearly done with the tang. Now you see my strokes are even smaller now. Now I'm using my wrist instead of my arm. Okay, so it's not exactly parallel, it's got a fat side, a little bit fat in the middle, a mushroom. So I'm going to get rid of the mushroom first before I turn it around and start working on the tip. I could do it just now if I wanted to, but let's do it properly, you know. Oh, it's a nice breeze.
So when you forge one, it takes you a couple hours. How long does it usually
Well,
take?
for a smaller knife, I'd probably be finished by now. But because we are where we are, and I am who I am, I'm making a Bowie knife like an idiot in this heat. But it's okay, it's fun, I'm having fun. This is the first knife I've made in about a month. Well, I made one last week, but it was just a little knife. I didn't really spend a lot of effort on it. But this is the first time I'm doing any serious forging, because the last serious forging, actually longer than a month, about 2 months, because I prepared all my stock for blade show way early, so it was just blades. I was just grinding and polishing, so all the forging was finished. So my arm's feeling like it wants to explode, but it's a good feeling. It makes me feel like a Viking. Alrighty. Now I'm going to use the flat side of the hammer just to flatten that section out of first. Okay, so I've achieved my first goal. That's the forge in a tang. See, it's tapered. It's called a distal taper. It gets smaller towards the end. Alright. And I'm now going to, there we go, distal taper. Distal taper. And it tapers that way as well. Ta-da. Okay. This will provide balance and strength. Now you'll see how thick the tang is here. There's a little bit of rounded on the edges there. That I'll straighten up with the grinder. Or you can straighten up the grinder, depends on who gets it. And as you see, it's pointing backwards, but that I'm going to fix after I've forged out the blade, because the tang's going to bend all over the place when I'm holding it while I forge out the blade. So I'm just going to turn it around. Turn it around. Now we'll start forging the tip. You never leave hot tools lying around.
Do you make a lot of your own tools?
No. I'm a knife maker. I've accepted my lot in life as knife maker, not knife tool maker. I pay other people to do that. Fixed.
What weight handle do you hammer do you generally start out with?
I like a 4-pound hammer, just because I'm familiar with the weight. These ones are really well balanced, by the way. Good job.
It's like starting to take 3 or 4.
Okay.
Okay.
I've got an old blacksmith's hammer from the Dutch settlers in South Africa from about 100 years ago. It's the plain old tapered-faced hammer with a very small face. So it's big in the middle and tapers towards the front, and it's got a handle right in the middle. It's really comfortable. The weight distribution is perfect. I can forge forever with that thing.
When you're custom making a knife, do you have the final product pictured in your mind, or do you just sort of make it?
Yeah, you got to have the ability to, unless you're like a lot of my fellow makers who like to plan the knife, who like to draw it.
Right.
Me, I know what a Bowie knife looks like. I know what a hunter looks like. I just put the steel in the fire and my body remembers how to make it. You can call it almost like a holistic approach to knife making. You know, I let the knives, I unleash the knife from the piece of steel. You know, I don't like drawing knives because if I draw a knife and it doesn't fit the design that I've drawn, you get a bit of a headache and you stress, like, are you trying to fix the knife, you're trying to grind this, grind that. Whereas if I have a Bowie shape in mind, when I finish the knife, it's like, wow, that looks great. Finished. Not, oh, the tip is too swept up or the belly is too much. And then you agonize about the minutiae of details. When doing it this way, I hit it till it looks like a knife. If I like it, it's finished. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start forging the tip out. There's several ways to do this. What happens is normally is if you just hit the sides of that piece of steel will go longer, but the middle stays where it is, so it forms like a little U. This is what we call the bird's mouth. We don't want that, because then you forge the sides to the tip and you get this little inclusion. Alright, so we want to avoid that. Two ways to do it is once you forge the corners off, create a round piece, which you then forge flat, and instead of that tip going inwards, it goes outwards. Makes sense. Or you can do it the way I do it, and I just hit it from one corner until it forms a wedge, and then from there I forge it out. I find that's just a little bit more efficient when I'm in a hurry, but there are a variety of ways of doing it. There's no wrong way, as long as you avoid that little bird's mouth. So it'll start the mushroom, and get rid of the mushroom. When it's hot. You can see it once they're already doing that little round. Oh, and there's a, I just noticed there's a grind mark on the end there. I'll see if I can forge it out. More than I care to admit. Yeah, usually when you're tired and you forget that something's hot, which is why I always try and cool the tongs, because when you do a day of forging, that's tongs, and you wear a glove, those tongs get really hot, and you take off your glove and you forget, and you grab them, it's like 3rd-degree burns in your hand because you weren't concentrating. So yeah, it happens more than I care to admit, but not as often as it used to.
Do you do bare-handed or do you wear gloves?
Depends on how macho I'm feeling.
Today, pretty much.
No, today is the lack of options. But yeah, I can forge with or without gloves. If I want to keep my hands clean, if I'm planning to do something, I will wear gloves. If I'm feeling, like I say, if I'm feeling masculine, I'll sweat it out. I won't wear an apron. I'll get covered in crap. You know, at the end of the day, you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, yeah, I should have worn gloves. Should have worn that apron. My favorite shirt is ruined. You know.
So would you normally do more than one project at a time because of the
Generally, I work on 2 knives at once, and I do batches of 10. So if I'm working on little hunters, I'll have 2 blades in there. I'll forge one out, one in, one out. So I'm working constantly throughout the whole day. This is kind of nice because I get to stop and take a breather because the big piece of steel needs to heat up. But even if I'm working on Bowie knives, I'll have 2 Bowies in, and I'll work on them one section at a time. And by the end of the day, I'll have a lineup on my anvil, because I've got a slightly bigger anvil than this. And I have a lineup of all the blades on there. And then I'll take them as they sit in the anvil into the workshop. I'll profile them just to neaten up the profiles. I'll pickle them in hydrochloric acid. That gets rid of all the fire scale. On the smaller knives and the big knives, we clean it up with an angle grinder and a wire brush, just to clean off all the fire scale. Because fire scale kills grinding belts.
It's really hard, right?
Yeah, it's pure carbon. Pure carbon and iron is the hardest you can get, which is why you don't want it in your knife. And then once those blades are clean, I will then take it to the grinder, grind them clean, grind in the shoulders, make my lines nice and neat and even. And then they're ready for stamping and heat treating. So I'm just going to hammer that little bit at the end there, see if I can get rid of it. Yeah, it's not going to go away. That's fine. Fortunately, it's close enough to the edge that I can just use a grinder and I can grind it off. But I'll carry on as normal, and we won't worry about that little confusion there. Straight through my rag. Now this, like I said, this feeling I've got now is kind of how I feel at home when I work. But there, when I stop, the cool breeze cools me down instantly. Here, I'm still sweating. But it's okay, it's all good. I'm kind of enjoying it. It's fun.
About a month out of the year of cool breeze.
Yeah.
That came at him aggressively.
Well, tongue and water, yes.
So one of the things that we learned when we went to South Africa is that there's a difference between what they call their beef jerky, they call it biltong, and American beef jerky, which you love, right?
Feels like somebody cooked the beef stew and left it out in the sun for too long. Awful. This is a good approximation of biltong.
I'll pass them around if you'd like some.
I'm on Sally.
It said advertisement. Helping Americans get the taste of jerky out of their 25 years.
I had one guy come to me with his homemade beef jerky. He was so proud. And I forgot to turn on my filter and I said, this tastes like crap. He gave me the stink eye the whole show. Whoops.
You gotta have a knife, especially
You do get biltong knives, yes, because biltong will come like that, pre-sliced, or it'll come in the whole rump. And you get a knife, some knife, and cut pieces off. Cool. Good stuff. Okay there. I want to hit you with a hammer. Sorry, you missed a good shot there. I'll be doing that again, don't worry. You got a nice angle there.
Damn, John.
You know?
Saw my last video that I did?
Yeah, I see it.
I put the camera right here on the angle.
Recent or back home before you came over?
I might have to check, maybe I didn't upload it. Great shots.
There's been so much that's gone on in the past 2 weeks, my brain's fried.
I didn't watch your episode. Did you win? Nice.
I'll send it to you.
Guys, we also, it is about Stuart, but we had somebody come 4 hours away, came from Houston, Texas, Bill Schreier, and he just had his episode on Fortune Fire, and actually won, and he doesn't want me to say this, but he won the episode. Here's the cool thing, that he drove 4 hours to see somebody else.
I've learned from him and Niels 90% of what I know. So.
Yeah.
Where'd the other 10% come from?
Say again?
Where'd the other 10% come from?
Random people on the internet.
Double luck. Okay, you ready for this one? Yeah, kill it. Woo. I'll eat it. I'll power up. I'll be like Mario grabbing burgers when I'm done.
So if we wanted to get them out, huh?
Yeah. Now, what I'm about to do is counterintuitive to anybody who knows how steel moves. When you forge a blade, I'm going to forge what looks like the cutting edge. I'm going to forge it flat. Looks like the back of the knife, and the round part is on the top. The round part's actually the back. Because if you remember what I said earlier, when you start forging out the edge gets longer. So when I put a precursor to the flexing, I put it in the top. So when it gets longer, it kind of straightens out. Although it doesn't always happen like that, because the part that I forged the heel in, that bends like a banana, bends a piece of steel like this. But you'll see, you'll see. It's going to do all sorts of wacky and weird things when I start getting crazy with it. Here's some jiggy. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, this is very chunky and unattractive, but it's going to become slim and sexy in a minute. Got to follow the procedure, got to follow the basic steps. Some guys want to jump ahead and start trimming it down and making it look good looking right now, but can't do it without putting in the tip. Can't do it without forging out the tang. Can't do it without the step-by-step procedure that each time you make a knife you have to follow.
How long should that be whenever you're done with it?
Not this long.
Okay.
As long as it needs to be.
The bigger the better.
A wizard is never late, nor is he early. Ah, sweating under my titties. Nice. So how did you enjoy the Baton Rouge heat? Oh, I forged knives. You know, the way of things. Because I'm working on a smaller area. Because I'm working on a smaller area, it heats up quicker, but it also gets cold quicker now.
So comparatively, once you forge a knife, how long it takes you to say, like, it takes you approximately what, an hour, 2 hours?
Yeah, so in ideal conditions, this is about a 45-minute knife, okay? And that's forged to finish shape, 95% profile, 95% bevels, everything. I will then grind that knife. It'll take me about 10 minutes to grind it. I then spend an hour heat treating, which is normalizing, refining the grain, then eventually the quench after I've stamped my logos in. And after the quench, I'll make sure it's straight, and and then put it in for tempering. Now tempering we do to de-stress the steel, because we can't use the steel immediately after we quench it. It's too hard, too brittle. If you literally take it off, if I take a knife, quench it in water, I'll hit it in the end, it'll shatter like glass. But it has the potential to be incredibly tough, so we get that toughness by tempering it. Depending on the steel, depends on the temperature, about 180 degrees Celsius to 200 degrees Celsius, depending on if you want it hard or if you want it tough. And you usually do 3 1-hour cycles, allowing to cool to room temperature between each cycle. And then at the very last time you do it, you take it out, and when it's at room temperature, you put it in the deep freeze, or if you've got liquid nitrogen, you do a sub-zero quench. That pulls out the last bit of hardness in it, what we call a retained martensite. Martensite is the part of the steel that makes it hard. It makes it into a knife other than a paperweight. Okay? And there's that last little bit that's hiding in the steel, and you've got to bring it sub-zero for it to convert from its current chemical condition to the martensite condition, which is ideally what we want. So that's how we get. You were asking me about what makes a custom knife special. This kind of attention to detail is what makes a custom knife special. You don't get this kind of detail with production knives. There you go.
When you're in a deep freeze, how long do you leave it in a deep freeze?
24 hours is what I do. I find that sufficient, especially with the bearing steel blades, the 5200. That makes it really, really sharp. It's super tough. Now I do a 0 degree bevel. If you look at some of my Pukos inside, hotly debated topic whether it's 0 or not, but basically a normal knife has got a primary bevel and then a little bit in the end that you sharpen, which is called your edge bevel or your secondary bevel. If you look at my Puko knives, it's a Scandinavian style knife. There is no secondary bevel, it just goes straight up to the edge like that. Now that's a super fine edge, and people are saying, well, isn't it too thin, it's too brittle. You take that edge and put it on a brass rod about as thick as this. And I can put it on like that and I can bear down on it. The edge will flex out, and when I take it off, it will flex back. Which means it's tempered just right. If it was tempered incorrectly, it will either chip out, which is what most people expect, or it will bend. If it bends, I tempered it too much, the blade is too soft. So we want it the Goldilocks zone. We want it just right. And each particular steel has its own Goldilocks zone. So you figure it out, you just make a note of what steel you're using and what the correct tempering temperatures are. Right, let's make a knife. Stop talking. Okay, I'm happy with that tip. We'll make a nice broad clip on it. Clip is that part of the Bowie knife that sweeps up in the front. Looks like a nail clipper. Clip. Okay, so I'm going to start forging the edge bevel here. And you can see this is the flat section. Now you'll see why. Now start by forging nearest to the tang. Oh, if I can. This is going to be challenging. There's no hole on the other side of that forge. So let's wait for that whole thing to get done. So the knife's going to get a little longer, which may present a bit of a challenge in forging the whole thing, because there's no hole in the back of the forge. With my little post box forge, there's a hole in the back, so I can get the sections of the knife that I need. This is a great blacksmithing forge, and good for forging small knives. Whose forge is this?
Keith Babineau.
He's not here.
He's not here, no. He couldn't make it.
Yeah, tell him he needs to cut a hole in the back of his forge.
He'd probably appreciate it if you went ahead and did that.
So I noticed there's a lot less forge scale on the knife that you're forging than like when I run my forge and I really don't know what I'm doing. So is that really the heat
low,
or yeah?
Temperature is low. That's the thing. This is not running very hot at all.
And that's the way you want it, or
which is kind of why I generally like it a little hotter because I like to work faster. And then I undo the overheating with the normalizing cycle. Okay. But because this is such a low temperature right now, this is like almost normalizing temperature. It's about 800 degrees Celsius. this is ideal forging temperature, but not ideal for forging quickly. So that's why this demonstration is taking a little longer than I anticipated. But it's not like we're going to run out of daylight here. So yeah, normally I like to forge a little hotter. Let's see if we can get some temperature out of this thing. That'll do it.
I don't know if that was by intent or like should I calm it down?
Did I mind tricking? Yeah. Yeah, this is about what I normally work at. I just didn't realize they didn't open it all the way. Like an idiot.
I was wondering, I was like, I know you can turn that regulator up and probably get it to scream if you really want it.
Yeah, mine sounds like a dragon.
Yeah,
it's very aggressive. You kind of like have to work.
Too. I'm like,
becomes a cruel taskmaster, you know. Yeah. I'll let the whole blade soak for a bit, and I'll expedite the edge forging process.
So this is the second time you've been to the United States.
That's correct.
And what do you think about the United States as you come here?
It's a great place. Safe compared to where I'm from. No, I drive around, see no fences, no bars on the windows, no private security firms driving up and down the road. It feels like a nice place to stay.
Where in South Africa are you?
Johannesburg. Rum capital of the world.
I know, yeah, you guys have a ton of makers out there. So.
One of the struggles, if nobody knows a lot about South Africa, there are some struggles in trying to keep electricity going and stuff. What struggle do you come up with?
Yeah, for the most part, where we live, it's first world country. We've got power, we've got water, we've got houses just like everybody else. But the corrupt government has spent all the money and there's no money for infrastructure. As a result, power stations are being decommissioned. We have rolling brownouts, and at one point we had a load shedding, what they call load shedding, which is a brownout, planned power outages, and to the point where I had to invest in a generator. But now the elections have come and gone, there's now power again, so I don't know.
They do the load shedding daily, right?
Yeah, they used to. Like I said, it's stopped for a while now. So I don't know, let's hope it stays. It's nice to have power. And they charge you a fortune for it as well. Whoa, there we go. Now it's on. I'm going to lose my beard. Okay, there you go. You want your fire scaling? There it is.
That's what I'm used to.
Okay, so I'm just going to whack out that edge. Establishing the center line, the middle of the blade. So if you look at any of my bigger blades, you see the edge sits in the middle. I didn't grind it there, I forged it there. And this is the start of that. So you're forging in your heel, and it's not perfectly straight, but then again neither is the rest of the blade. So that's not important now. What's important is that I establish the pinch and I start pulling the pinch forwards. Come on, really?
You have a home built grinder or you bought one?
Fortunately, there's 3 companies in South Africa that make excellent quality grinders.
He has no hair on his head.
Better than Stuart. They're all from guys who run engineering firms. And they're cheaper than these ones here as well. So the only problem is if you bought one from South Africa and you bought it here, you'd end up paying the same with shipping costs. So, but we run off a 2-meter belt, which is a 78-inch belt. All because the first guy to make a belt grinder in South Africa
Yeah, probably 30
Didn't know what the length of the American belts were. So he guessed it. Instead of 72 inch, he made it 78 inch. And now, if I go to Blade Show, all the belts that I want, all the Gator belts and Norton Blaze, all the best belts for grinding carbon steel, can't use it because they don't fit my grinder. Actually, last time I went to Blade Show, I bought Gator belts. And I was like showing off to my South African friends, look what I got, look what I got. And the guy said, you sure of the length? I went and checked it, and it was like giving back my Christmas presents. I'd say to the guy, yeah, just give me your money back, I can't use these. Okay, I've got some water on that hammer handle, it needs to dry. I work one section at a time, but because the whole blade is hot, I'm taking advantage of it.
That's great. Now the steel's getting thinner, so I can do less forging. It just keeps getting cold. Okay, and I can't see anything with those. Not quite here, I guess. Not that bad yet. A sports player. No sports. Okay, the reason I tap it is to make sure it's tight in the top. How about that? Starts to look like a knife. Okay, I'm going to refine the edge a little bit. I'm going to put more of a tip and I'm going to put a definite Bowie clip on it. I'll straighten the tang, and then I think that's it for me. Go! Viking R.
Do you need another water?
I've still got mine thinking.
So if you weren't a knife maker, what would you be?
Hobo.
So you're meant to be a knife maker?
No. Like I said, it's one of those weird things that just happened. I hadn't planned on it. It was a fate. And I have to make it work because if I have to get a job, I don't know how to do anything. So I can hit metal.
Probably arm wrestle.
Sorry?
Probably arm wrestle.
Yeah, believe it or not, after a while, it stops becoming strength and it starts becoming technique. And then the muscle starts to go away. Grind mark, but I'll grind that. It's very small. I'll grind it out. Okay, now I'm going to straighten the back a little bit. I want to leave the belly. I like the belly. It looks kind of nice. Shut up. And I'm going to leave the belly on. Looks kind of nice. And then I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to take the tang. I'm going to straighten the tang, put it at the correct angle, square up the shoulders, make it look nice and neat. No, I'm just, my hands are starting to take strain, that's all.
You ever get carpal tunnel?
No, I get calluses.
Oh yeah.
Because like now, because the hammer is slightly damp, it's now rubbing. And I'm going to start getting a blister. Really, there you go, you see my blister's already started. I was fine, while the hammer was dry, it was fine. But yeah, no, never carpal tunnel, nothing like that. In fact, if anything, this prevents it because it keeps your veins moving, keeps your tendons working. This is far from perfect, but it's pretty good. I'm quite satisfied with that. All conditions considering.
Yeah, dude, I did.
Yeah, I survived. Weird banana shape that you see in the tang's all the wrong way. Nothing square. In a few heats I'm going to sort that out. It's going to look like a proper knife profile. And apart from maybe straightening it a bit, that's pretty much all there is to it. It'll look good. Without a battery on your phone, on your camera. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Probably good video for these.
On the wall. Yeah. That actually makes sense.
All right.
Yeah. But I just put the same on. I had some one top.
The first thing I do is square up.
Then it started getting in the way.
Right.
So like, well, it didn't. Then, you know, it started.
And I put it up against the face of the hand here on the table.
You know, I couldn't plan.
So it doesn't slide around. nicely. Now if I wanted to, I could hit this area again and just draw it out a little bit more. Might do that still. I'll use the smaller hammer for it. Now this kind of bowie knife would look really cool with a piece of antler.
That's a hint. They don't have antlers in South Africa, so
don't get a lot of that where we are.
He wants antlers.
You like big antler with like you like velvet, don't you?
Anything goes. Cheap date when it comes to antler.
I didn't have an antler in South Africa.
Break out the small hammer.
When I know I'm working in my shed, I turn the window usually. Going on, like I forge, I put the forge on it the outside, like on this side is the door, and I open and close the door while I forge. It is amazing. I love this.
Alright, I want to go over it once just to make sure everything's straight. Now I'm done. When in doubt, quench your hand. Don't shatter your finger. Well, I'm losing all sense of what's what. You asked me how many times I burned myself? Yeah. There you go. How many times a day? It's not like I grabbed something hot. It's not like I wasn't well advertised that it was hot. I stuck my hand into it. Like an engine. Stick well as well. Oh, really? I like the big one. Perfect, but it would be nice to be close.
One last time.
Those things are usually real hot, huh?
About an hour's worth.
This tongue trim is stupid.
You close?
Yeah. One or two more heats.
Before he finishes, I just want to say thanks for coming. Appreciate y'all. I know. Thanks for Keith Babineau for the forge. We got some guys from the Lima, Louisiana. Help me out here. Louisiana Association of Metalsmith.
And then the Gulf, there it is. And then as well as Gulf Coast, right? Gulf Coast placement, Blackstone. If you haven't checked out some of Stuart's finished work inside, go check it out. We got a couple of our knives that he built for us, as well as I think we got 3 that are available for sale, the Pico models. So go check them out inside. We got some other knives that were forged as well. You can go check them out. But thanks everybody for coming. Y'all hang out as long as you want after he's done asking plenty of questions. But while he finishes this knife that he's making, we're going to give it away. And you got 2 options. If you don't have to take a ticket if you don't want it. We're going to give it away to somebody. You can either take it as is, finish it off yourself.
It needs a little bit of extra hammering to finish, but I'm finished. Personally.
Or he'll take it with you. Take it with him to South Africa and finish it. It's going to cost you a little bit to do that, but we'll work those details out. If you win, you can choose between the 2. Either take it with you or send it with Stuart. He'll finish it, and I'll bring it back next time we come back. So while he's finishing up, I'll hand out some raffle tickets. If you want one, you don't have to take one.
I want to do just one normalizing cycle. There we go. Low and slow. That air conditioner is calling me.
Fresh water right there.
I think so. Now the temperature I've set it at is so low, I don't have to worry about if I forget about the steel in the fire, because it doesn't get hot enough to create grain growth. In fact, if it soaks a little bit, the better.
Is it more humid here, or is it similar?
No, where I'm from, generally, it's dry. It gets to about 35 Celsius, almost up to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's dry. And when you work, you sweat. And when you stop, you stand in front of the fan, and you cool down quickly. Yeah, when you stop, you still sweat.
Yeah, you never get dry.
No. Okay, now normally I'd have a magnet to test, but I've been doing it long enough. I think I got an idea of what the correct temperature is. Also, this is really low, so it's not a real big chance of me messing it up.
So what are you looking for?
Even heat is the main thing I'm after right now. So if you look here now, see there's shadows. There's a shadow here, there's a shadow there. I just want it to heat evenly. That's the main concern right now. So I'll start doing what I'm doing now, moving it in and out. Okay, so the tang area is pretty much good. I'm happy with that. So it's going to be a bit of a sway back now.
I'm the one handing tickets out.
Thank you.
Would y'all like a raffle ticket?
Also, you have to keep taking it in and out because the edge is so thin. You always get a cluster. So you take it out. The heat bleeds out of the edge and back of the so it absorbs some of the heat in the edge. So if you keep doing that, eventually it evens itself out. See the shadows? That's the temperature line.
And so heating it evenly, getting it to take that strength you're normalizing?
Yeah, so this is the crucial part, the normalizing. This is what takes your piece of steel from paperweight. Start turning it to knife. Can I have a ticket?
That knife would come back to us anyway. That way.
Look at that steel.
Did everybody get a ticket that wants one? Anybody still need a ticket?
What's the stuff on the inside? Is that
high temperature cotton wool.
Oh, really?
No. It's called KO wool. It's a glass fiber high temperature wool.
Oh.
So it is wool, but it's special ceramic wool. Like a mixture of glass and ceramic. Yeah, exactly. Yes. And you've got some fire bricks on the bottom there. So almost there, so there's a little bit of shadow in the tip. So we evened out the back, so now we're just doing the front.
You draw it? Draw it, stick it out of there.
Hang on a second. Can we finish it first?
Yeah, we found some tongs.
Alright, there we go.
You may break it at this point.
Here's reporter guide. That's a good photo. Alright. And the lucky winner is 239026.
That's me.
Yeah.
No way. I won. Just kidding. No, that is yours. It's actually his ticket. That's right. He just handed me his ticket.
That's awesome.
That's all. I want you to take it with you.
You got $500? It'll be worth it. Let me show you. Let me show you what your money's going to buy you. I've done this handle before, and I'll show you.
Y'all feel free to hang out, check out inside, ask Stuart lots of questions. Don't touch the forge, it's still hot. Hey, thanks for watching. If
That's
you were
buffalo
watching
horn,
there, it was a lot of fun. We're gonna
kudu horn,
probably try to do this again next year.
warthog,
It was a lot of fun. Maybe
and a
we'll
local
do
hardwood. I think you'll be happy.
Do I need cash?
No, only when I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Only when I'm done. Also, that doesn't pressure me to do it.
Right.
No, because if people are, where's my knife? Where's my knife? Where's my knife? I paid you money. That suddenly becomes the hardest knife to make.
Does he need?
Oh, sorry, nearly sweated on.
Next year,
All good.
plan on doing it. We'll be here again. We'll do it again next year. So, see ya.
Yeah.